This is a review of September 12th morning classwork, front-end jQuery 1. I have a lot of tabs open today. Front-end jQuery 1. All right. So starting with a README, you guys had 3 exercises. The first is to paste this HTML document into an HTML file and give each element its corresponding attributes according to the text inside of the tags. The second exercise is a timer exercise, working with a created HTML file and making a middle image appear and disappear every 2 seconds. And the third exercise is working with tables and on-click functions using jQuery. So starting with exercise 1, let's look at the completed HTML page. So I've got my 3 red items that each say I should be read. I've got a blue item, and when it's clicked, it should evoke a function that alerts the user my element was clicked. And I have I was clicked being alerted. I've got a background of green and a white text, a background of orange, and a pink text. So let's look at this CSS and JavaScript. So the HTML is just straight copied from the README. With the JavaScript, I've got my red text class being called from my jQuery, and I'm adding the class apply red text. I'm doing the same thing for my element and adding the class apply blue text. And then for my 2 div elements with a different text and background, I'm using div colon first to get the first one and div colon last to get the last one, and then applying their corresponding classes. And finally, for my onClick function, I'm grabbing my element using jQuery and using a click and the function that alerts I was clicked. So if you look in my CSS, I've got my 4 classes. I apply red text, blue text, and then our 2 backgrounds. And all of these I'm referencing in my JavaScript file. So now let's move on to exercise 2. We were given this HTML page. It was fully created in the corresponding CSS. And so the only changes we had to make were in the JavaScript in order for this image to appear and disappear every 2 seconds, which it's doing here. So let's look at how we're doing that in the JavaScript file. So the first thing I did was actually grab that middle image, and I'm not using jQuery for this problem. You weren't required to. So I've got document element by ID and the ID middle image. And then I've defined a function called timer, and I'm calling it in my function interval, which I'm calling down here. So we'll start with the function interval actually. And we've got a window dot set interval timer, which is my function up here, which is the function that I want to run every 2 seconds. So let's look at our function timer because this is where the appear and disappear is going on. So I've got a flag up here called show, and I'm setting it to true. So if show, which is the same thing as saying if show is equal to true, I want to set the attribute of my middle image to hidden and then update the value to false. Otherwise, which means that show is false, I want to remove the attribute of hidden and update the value to show. So this is the basics of using a flag so that I can kind of toggle this show hide behavior back and forth. So it'll run this function timer every 2 seconds. The first time it runs, show will be true and then updated to false. The second time it runs, show will be false and then updated to true, and so on forever. So moving on to the third and final exercise, we were asked to create a table with jQuery in every box. And when we click the button, it makes every other row gray. So let's look at the HTML and CSS for this assignment. So starting with the HTML, I've just got a table with my table rows defined and table data in each, all of which have jQuery. I just made one of these and just copied it 6 times. And then I've also got a button called Click Me with the ID gray rows. So in my JavaScript, I'm grabbing the gray rows button using jQuery, And for my click function, I'm adding the class gray row style to each table row inside of my HTML file. So let's look at gray row style in my CSS. I've got some basic CSS to define my borders. And then for gray row style, I've got inth dash child even. So for every other child, I want to just change the background to gray. So every time the button is clicked, I apply that style, making every other row gray. So let's look back at our completed assignments one more time. My 3 reds, my blue with an alert, and my 2 text and background changes. My disappearing middle image every 2 seconds, and my every other row gray. And that is everything for September 12th morning classwork. I'll include the completed assignment in the description with comments, and that's it.